First things first, the Bucks are headed to the finals. Was Giannis' injury a blessing in disguise? We'll explain. Chris Paul's first finals on tap to start tomorrow, but will this be his last stint in Phoenix if they win it all? And little baseball, Brett Phillips just having himself some fun on the mound. And when I say fun, I mean a blast. And with that, we say good Monday morning. Welcome to First Things First on this extended 4th of July holiday. Jenna Wolfe, Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Wilds, can this guy just pitch every game for Tampa? Wouldn't that be great?
Well, we're petitioning the league. We hope that's what's gonna happen. We hope to hear by the end of the show, Jenna. So we'll keep you updated. Stay tuned, everyone.
We'll hear from the Rays just a bit. We'll hear from Kevin Wilds. But we got to start in the NBA, where the finals are officially set. So it'll be the Phoenix Suns and it'll be the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks taking care of business Saturday, closing out the Hawks in Game 6. They did it without Giannis for the last 2 games, which meant everyone else had to step up. And on Saturday, everyone else consisted of Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, who both combined for 59 points. So as for Giannis, Coach Bud says he's day-to-day with the knee, so the old wait-and-see approach. So here we go. Bucks and Suns, Game 1 tomorrow night. How do these two teams match up? Well, Phoenix won both regular season games. Giannis averaged 40 against the Suns, and these were the top 2 defensive teams this postseason. So I would say, how do they match up? Pretty well. Nick, can the Bucks afford for Giannis to miss any games in the NBA Finals versus the Suns?
Yes, the Bucks can survive Giannis missing 1 game. They can survive Giannis missing 2 games, because the first 2 games are in Phoenix, and Phoenix, even if Giannis were healthy, would be favored to win each of those games. And in fact, we might as well start the week off. We finally have our finals matchup. I'll give you my pick. If Giannis is back by Game 3, the Bucks will win the title. The Bucks need Giannis. They can survive falling down 0-2 because the first 2 games are in Phoenix. But the Bucks, not just this year, but over the last 3 years, have been building to this moment. And what we did see the last couple of games without Giannis is the complementary pieces stepped up in a pinch. But that does not mean you can expect them to do that against an outstanding Suns team over the course of a 7-game series. But this year, Brandon, for all its injuries, for all its upheaval, the one part of this year that could make it make sense is if the 2-time MVP, right around the time everyone, after that Game 5 against KD and your beloved Nets, were ready to say, okay, Giannis, great player, but not great enough. If that was the fork in the road moment for him that then propelled him to champion and arguably, and we could argue about it at some point, the best player in the league. He obviously has to come back to accomplish that. If he does come back by that first game in Milwaukee, I believe the Bucks will win the title. So yes, they can survive a game or 2 without it.
But Nick, what Giannis are you going to actually get back? You know, I always talk about books. I got Relentless right here by Tim Grover. Tim Grover, you know, trained Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant at times, Dwayne Wade, and so many other guys on this roster. And he continues to train guys today. There's one story in that book where he talks about, you know, D. Wade not being able to go, and that how he didn't try to go in there and get him back to where he was, but tried to get him to work in compensation. Meaning, like, if this knee is jacked up, we got to lean on the other side of your game. And that is the problem with Giannis, is that Giannis can come back, but that knee is not going to be 100%. It probably won't even be 90%. So what does he do well? He dribbles, he penetrates to the hole, he does a little spin move, he get in the paint, and he's unstoppable. You're not going to be able to do that now. So now, that three-pointer, you got to be able to hit that shot. You got to be efficient from the free throw line. And I just don't see that happening. So they don't have a chance if Giannis doesn't get back. And if Giannis isn't capable of being able to dribble, penetrate, get into the paint, and do that little shot that he does. I mean, once he get in there, he's unstoppable. But while I'm just afraid that we're not going to see effective, efficient Giannis come the finals.
I totally agree with you, Brandon. And to the point where I think the Bucks should basically take a page out of the Jazz playbook and be like, I don't care if you want to play Donovan Mitchell, we're not letting you play game one. And Mitchell was heated, but they were like, nah, we're just not going to do it. We're going to roll our dice. They ended up losing. Donovan Mitchell came back and they won 6 straight until Quinn Snyder forgot how to coach and they ended up losing. But Nick, here's the point. Throughout these playoffs, we've seen guys, well, it's true. We've seen guys try to like force the issue, and it hasn't worked. AD's like, oh, AD's going to come back. Whoa, my God, this is the spark they need. And then he had 0 points. It was kind of limping around like, what are we doing here? Get him out of the game. And we had, oh, here comes James Harden, the spark we need. Nah, he had 5 points. He missed all of his threes. Ended up winning, but that's because Durant was there to carry them. Then Trae Young, we just saw. Oh, let's have Trae Young come back. Maybe this is what they need. And he was largely ineffective. He also missed all his threes. So I think Donovan Mitchell is the way to go, because here's why we learned from the Bucks in the last 2 games. We know how to play with Giannis. We know how to play without Giannis. We don't know necessarily how to play with like a kind of Giannis. I think that does more harm than good. I think it's either to go with a great Giannis or he's out. But trying to play in the middle ground, I think, is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, unless the only way to get great Giannis is to have him play a game at not a warm-up game, but a game to get himself back in the flow, back in rhythm. Like if the Hawks would have been able to force a game 7, I think we would have seen a far better Trae Young. Reggie Miller, and I'm not one to say this very often, but Reggie made a really good point during the broadcast where he was talking about Trae's timing being off. And it did seem like he wasn't fully in the flow of things. And so I do think the first game back with Giannis, you're not going to get 100% Giannis. But Brandon, this is where I want, and by the way, Giannis could miss the whole series. And if he misses the whole series, it's a huge bummer. Right. It'll be a Chris Paul coronation and good for Chris Paul, but under these circumstances, it would kind of suck. But I want to lean on you for something here, Brandon, because Wildes mentioned AD and Harden. Those soft tissue injuries, I feel like, are in one category where it's like, I can't go 100%. I could re-aggravate it. I could restrain it. We saw Harden do it multiple times, right? With a hyperextended knee, to me, in my head, that's a different category. You're not like concerned about hyperextending it again. So is it a pain thing? Is it an explosiveness thing? Because we haven't seen this injury, a guy try to play through it in these playoffs. You've suffered the injury. So what will Giannis be feeling? How will it affect him if he is able to get on the court?
Yeah, I did this, 2017, 2017 with the New York Jets playing against the Buffalo Bills opening night, Sunday Night Football, and it was brutal. It's a everything thing, Nick. That's what it is. I wasn't able to move side to side until week 10. You'll be able to move forward. You'll be able to stop, start, go, do all of that stuff, but you're not able to actually do that little spin move that we just saw him do. Elevate and tweak his body in the air and being able to finish at the rim. You're not going to be able to see that. He's going to be very sensitive. He's going to be out there and he's going to be leaning on his shot. And unfortunately, he doesn't have a shot that he can lean on. And we're also talking about, Nick, Jenna, we're talking about the Bucks and the Suns. Like, the Suns are some slaps. Like, with Giannis, a healthy Giannis, this is still a series. So let's not get it twisted. Come on, they got the point guard over there. Chris Paul makes everyone better. Their number 2 guy, D-Book, is better than the Bucks' number 2 guy in Middleton. And then obviously the defense that Jenna talked about in the opening, their defense has been stellar, not only in the playoffs, but all year. So let's not talk about the Suns like they're just some guys. Like, these are some real dudes that can get it done. All right, cool.
Brendan Marshall says the Suns are not slaps. But speaking of them, we'll dive more into Chris Paul's future and how the finals will factor into that. But what are we watching? Let's talk some Luka. Luka Slovenia is Tokyo bound. How is Luka getting mobbed? Here he was by his teammates after the game. Check this out.
Look at Nick. There's Nick and look at Nick.
Last week I've had the chance to Can you describe
Let's play Drawing a Blank. Talk some Luka Doncic now. He dazzled over the weekend, triple-double to help Slovenia earn their first trip to the Olympics in men's basketball. And he had some interesting comments afterwards on winning a gold medal. Take a listen to this.
What would mean more to you, a gold medal with the Team Slovenia or NBA championship with the men?
I would say gold medal with Slovenia. It's you play for your country, and that's something that really. But I wouldn't mind both.
Of course he wouldn't. Brandon, Luka saying a gold medal would mean more to him than an NBA title is blank.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people watching this, listening to that clip saying, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. Look, this is childhood dreams. That's what this is. In America, we grow up, and sorry guys, but we grow up saying, I want to make it to the big league, and I also want to make a lot of money. Things have changed over the years. These kids now have a sense of entitlement. But when you cross over to international waters, it's about tradition. He grew up watching Kyrie Irving, Carmelo Anthony, LeBron James, even Kobe Bryant just destroy everyone in the Olympics. So over there, he grew up saying, I got to compete and I want to knock them off. This dude is the ultimate competitor. That's why he's great. He is a savage. That's why he's amazing. He loves the flair. So I believe this. This is childhood dreams. That's all this is, Nick. You raised your son right. All right? You didn't raise him with the sense of entitlement. Oh, let's just make it to the NBA and make a lot of money. Yeah. Well, maybe he got that from mom. Because you do like your money. No. Maybe he got that from mom. Let me take that back.
No, that's fair. But he got the good stuff from mom. He got this basketball skill and acumen from me, obviously. Listen, this is totally reasonable. I know most of you have not spent nearly as much time as I have in Slovenia. So let me tell you what an Olympic gold would mean for Slovenia. Slovenia's population is roughly the same size as Idaho. If you add up all the money all the citizens of Slovenia have combined, it's shy of what Elon Musk made in the last 2 years. Slovenia, forget winning a medal at the Olympics. Jenna said it, but I want to emphasize it. Had never qualified for the Olympics in their nation's relatively short history since no longer being a part of Yugoslavia. So this would be, if Luka were able to win a gold medal, look at that pass, with Slovenia. I'm not exaggerating here. It would be one of the most impressive basketball accomplishments ever. So this is not controversial. He will win an NBA title or 3. If he were able to win a gold medal, Wilds, it is on the short list of greatest things any basketball player has ever done. To win a gold medal with Slovenia and their 2.1 million person population. So yeah, I don't think this is controversial, Wilds.
Okay, great job. I'm going to dig into the population a little bit. Because Slovenia basically has, I think, less people than Houston, slightly more people than Phoenix. So this would be like Phoenix. Just not the Phoenix Suns winning the gold medal. And who's from Phoenix, you might ask? Well, I tried to look it up. Kevin Knox would have to lead the team, and maybe Marvin Bagley, but Marvin Bagley's actually from Tempe, so I don't know if it counts. So it's just Kevin Knox and a few guys just from Phoenix. If they ended up winning the gold medal, it would be an amazing accomplishment. Phoenix, however, did not qualify for the Olympics. Slovenia did.
Yeah,
Kevin, you make some fantastic points. Really.
No, he's right.
We want more from Kevin.
2 million people.
Wild's Weird and Wonderful. From our national pastime, Shohei Ohtani went yard yesterday. It's like day of the week Pretty wonderful after the league's home run leader became the first player ever to make the All-Star game as a position player and a pitcher. Kevin Wildes, that's great. What else you got for us?
Well, usually, Jenna, I scour all of Major League Baseball for the weirdest and most wonderful things, but this was a short assignment because all you need to see here is Rays outfielder Brett Phillips coming in the end of a blowout game. So here he is warming up. Unconventional. He's like, I want to get in there. Get me in there right now. So finally the gates open up and it's like a rodeo. Here he comes, sprints to the mound. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, I'm sure he's going to get up there and do some silly stuff. Nope. First pitch, boom, 94 miles an hour. Blue Jays were like, what's going on here? This guy throws 94 miles an hour. The next pitch, 47, so you don't know what you're going to get. Then, of course, you get a balk because he's leaning down to it, just drop the ball. That's a balk. Runners advance. Finally gets out of the inning with a ground ball to third base. A wonderful performance. Here's Brett after the game. Take a listen.
Bravo.
Kevin Cash came up to me in the dugout, said, hey, you know how to pitch? And I mean, first off the bat, what kind of question is that? I mean, I like to think that I have like a Mariano Rivera-esque cutter, Randy Johnson type fastball, a repertoire that I didn't even show last night because I didn't have to. Some people on Twitter are already calling me the next Shohei. I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of, rewarding, but I know the Rays aren't too happy about that because hopefully I'm blessed to make it to this arbitration case at the end of the year. And I know we'll definitely be using one of those as him as a comparison. You got to stand. You saw the ice in my veins. You saw me go out there and competing. My teammates know just from watching me pitch in the outfield in between innings what could have potentially been on display, but I didn't think they knew how electric it was going to be.
It's really that good. It's really that good. Thank you for bringing that to us, Kevin Wildes.
Thank you.
Back to the NBA, talking some Bucks. Hey, was Giannis' injury actually a bit of a blessing in disguise for Milwaukee? We'll explain next. First things first on a Monday morning. All right, back here talking the Milwaukee Bucks, who advanced to the finals without Giannis for games 5 and 6 of the conference finals. He's still day-to-day with that knee. And with Giannis out, we really saw Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday step up. Both of them forced to play bigger roles, and both of them did to much success, prompting Charles Barkley to say that Giannis' injury was actually a blessing in disguise. Take a listen to this.
I hate to say this. I think the best thing happened to the Milwaukee Bucks was Giannis getting hurt, because they have unleashed Drew Holiday, the aggressive Drew Holiday. I think he's going to be fantastic in the finals against Chris Paul.
Hey, Brandon, is Charles Barkley right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is what we talked about Friday, I believe it was, and I said, hey, guys, don't crush me. I'm going to go out on a limb on this one, but this could be a good thing for the Bucks. Why? Because sometimes when the star player goes down, you have a player that steps up, and they just hold everything together just until the star player comes back. And then there's some guys, when the star player goes down, there's a player or two that steps up, and they actually emerge and never turn back. They never look back. I was one of those guys. Going back to 2007, Javon Walker was the #1 guy. Just got paid $48 million. He was the man. He went down with a knee injury. I stepped up, and it changed everything, not only for our season, but it also changed everything for my career. But here's the deal. It's not only what you do on the court or on the field. It's what you do leading up to that. It's the entire process. There's this weight that you feel. Some players, they get crushed by that weight. Oh, my goodness, Giannis is down. What are we going to do? And there's some players that hold that, and it makes them stronger. It changes. For me, what changed was this, Nick. I actually woke up a little earlier. I went to go run because I felt like I couldn't take a play off. I'm like, who's going to be the guy? When Jay Cutler drops back, who is he going to throw it to? I can't come off the field. I start staying a little bit longer, and I start watching film, Wilds. It just totally changed everything that I did. Even just the mindset. My mindset, I was just locked in practice. I didn't miss a beat. So when you look at this team, absolutely, Sir Charles is right here. Now, what will we see now are these guys that are going to play a couple of games, at a high level, or these guys that are going to say, you know what, this is my moment to really stand up and actually excel at a high level from this point on. Drew Holiday is one of those guys. There's a couple guys on that bench that stood up and balled out. So we will see. I just think Giannis, period, coming back or not, he's not 100%. So these guys are going to have to step up and try to get it done, because Giannis, with that knee hyperextension, that's not a nice injury to be dealing with at this point in the season, obviously.
Yeah, so I agree with you that I certainly buy your personal experience, right? But Drew Holiday just signed a massive contract. Like, it shouldn't need Giannis leaving for him to step up. We've sort of been waiting for him to be more aggressive and sort of get to the paint more often. The biggest story here, or my biggest takeaway, Nick, is that the Bucks are still so up and down shooting the ball. In the regular season, they were a good three-point shooting team. They were good from the field. But all of a sudden in the field, they're in the bottom half of the playoffs in the field, and they went from like the top 5 three-pointing percentage to, I think, 14 out of the 16 teams that were in the playoffs. So for me, I like Drew being aggressive, but if their shots aren't falling, I don't think they have a chance. It's still, to me, less about sort of like the emotional up and down and more of them just like hitting those shots and turning into the team that they actually were during the regular season.
Yeah, so you guys were far more analytical about this question than I was, because I was watching when Charles said it, and I said, okay, well, Charles in the final show of the season might have said the dumbest thing he said all year. And I love Charles, and I'd say that to him. Listen, if Giannis doesn't get hurt, the Bucks make the finals. Giannis did get hurt, they're in the finals. So that they didn't gain anything from that. And now they go into the finals with a team that, let's be honest about what the Bucks are without Giannis. A slightly lesser version of the Knicks. They're the Pacers, with Chris Middleton being Domantas Sabonis and Drew Holiday being a better Malcolm Brogdon. The idea that because the other subtext to this, that is like the take that is bubbling around some of these types of shows or sports radio is, could the Bucks actually, be better for a moment or two without? No, they couldn't be better without Giannis. No, they couldn't. They actually have no chance of beating the Suns in a series unless Giannis plays the vast majority of the series. Now, did it put some pressure on Drew, to Brandon's point? Yes, it did. But the reason that Brandon was able, when Javon Walker went down, to take that job, and you won't say this, I will, and Javon Walker had a nice career, it's because Brandon was better than Javon Walker. And guess what? Brandon eventually was going to take that job anyway. Brandon was a better player by the time you became a full pro than Javon. So, Drew needs to play better for the Suns to win for the Bucks to win the title. But the Bucks are not in the conversation as, forget contender, as a team that could win a round in the playoffs without Giannis playing, at either close to full strength or close to the full series. So I understand the point Charles was trying to make, but I just vehemently disagree with it. That the idea that the Bucks have unlocked something, I don't think they have. The first game without Giannis, the Hawks didn't have their best guy either in Trey. And the second game without Giannis, Drew played great, and credit to Drew, but Drew's going to need to play great with Giannis for the Bucks to win the title.
So they started the finals, the Eastern Conference Finals, with both Trae Young healthy and Giannis healthy. Okay, Trae Young goes, in the first game, second game, the Hawks were the better team. Clearly the better team. They outplayed the Bucks. And then Trae goes down, and what happens in that game? Halfway through that game, we're halfway through the game, and the Bucks are down what? 12 points or so. I mean, give or take a few. Like, they were being dominated, and then Giannis went down. So that's why this conversation is important, because with Giannis, they weren't better than the Hawks. And then all of a sudden, Trae Young, emerging superstar, top 10 talent in the NBA now, goes down with that foot injury, and it totally changed the series. That's why that's important. We keep having these conversations, and Wilds, I'll throw it to you, Nick, but Wilds says, well, I just want to see them hit the shots. I want to see them hit the shots. It's 80% mental. We keep talking about sports being 80% mental. You hear LeBron James saying 90%. I think it's 80%. Sure. So why do we keep talking about the physical? So you're seeing these guys, Drew Holiday, step up, or even Middleton, which he's been up and down all year. That's just who he is. But that does something to a player when the star player goes down mentally, which is why you see some guys take it to a whole nother level and some guys fold.
No, and I buy that in a short temporary burst. I don't buy it as a sustainable path at all. And where I disagree with you, though, Brandon, is that the Hawks were, if both guys were fully healthy, that the Hawks were even close to a better team than the Bucks. Listen, since the Bucks had like a horrifying, embarrassing loss to the Nets, where they lost by nearly 50 points in Game 2. Since then, the Bucks have lost 3 playoff games. The first one was the best game of Kevin Durant's life. The second one was the best game of Trae Young's life. Both of those games came down to the final minute. KD, best game of his life, came down to the final minute. Trae Young is 49-7-11, I think it was, or 48-7-11 in Game 1. They had 2 3-pointers to tie it at the end. They missed them both. And the only other game they lost was the game that Giannis got hurt in, when it seemed like they just totally let go of the rope. This is a Bucks team that's been the best defensive team in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. A Bucks team that finally, I think, through that Brooklyn series, put it all together, and I believe was, aside from the Game 1 performance where Trae, again, played brilliantly. Best game I've ever seen him play, and he's a great player. It came down to the final shot of the game. So I think the Bucks were finally, once they got over the hump, showing you this is who we can be, what they had been building towards. And Wilds, and I want your take on it, because we can show the video. I think that's why they reacted to winning the conference very differently than the Suns did. We can show how the Suns reacted when they okay, well, this is the Bucks. So here's the Bucks. This is after winning the Eastern Conference. And now maybe it's subdued because of Giannis' injury. I don't know. They're all just chilling. Here's the Suns after winning the Western Conference. So to me, it was the Bucks signifying, like, this was expected, this was needed, this was our next step, and we know we still have work to do. While the Suns, it was like, we can't believe we've done it. And that, to me, is actually, oddly, Wilds, a good sign, unless it was they're all bummed out because they actually know Giannis is done for the year, but I don't think that's what it is. So to me, this was a good signifier of the difference between the mentalities of these two teams going into the finals.
Yeah, do you think that a little bit of this is like being in Atlanta and the fact that Trae Young wasn't 100% and it wasn't like, the game was over earlier. You just kind of felt that the game was earlier.
Wasn't Phoenix in LA and Kawhi wasn't there? But wasn't it the same type of thing? You're on the road and the other team's best player.
I guess you're right. Yeah, the CP3 narrative carried this one, obviously. And although Giannis's narrative of like not getting there, and them sort of like flaming, it's a fascinating, I guess, looking at that, just like your first reaction, like, I guess I'm Team Bucks. I like the sort of Kobe style, like job's not finished. Brandon, are you Team Suns celebration or Team Bucks low-key mundane, we still have a job to do?
Listen, making it to the finals is a big deal. You should celebrate. So I'm Team Suns. I don't know what the hell the Bucks was doing. I'm sure that was probably just weird. A small little clip. They had to celebrate before or after. I don't know what that was, but I'm sure they celebrate. I saw a picture online. Maybe it was Twitter. Giannis with his little MJ moment, holding up the trophy, having a good time. Looked like there may have been some champagne on him. I think that was just before the celebration actually started, man.
They're like my kids. I start rolling, Jenna. They don't want to perform. It's the same thing. They didn't want to get excited because the camera's there. The cameras weren't off and everybody got excited. Nick, I want you to hand out some NBA playoff medals. Trae Young returned to the lineup for Game 6, but he was only able to score 14. As Kevin Wildes alluded to earlier, Hawks sent packing. No medal for Trae. Nick, which 3 guys did it best in Game 6?
Oh, a rare medal for a player on the losing team, but you're right, it's not Trae Young. Instead, it's Cam Reddish. Shout out to Cam Reddish. Got injured, was not available for the beginning of this playoff run, and then all of a sudden, he was the best player on the Hawks for Game 6. Comes off the bench, hits 6 threes, 21 points, and also, by the way, stay here for a moment, just shout out to the Hawks and how they built this team. They have drafted in the last 4 years John Collins, John Herter, Trae Young, and Cam Reddish. They got that for the Luka trade. Okongwu and DeAndre Hunter the last couple of years. DeAndre was hurt, obviously, early in this playoff run. They've really done a great job building that roster through the draft, not all with premium picks. Cam Reddish is with the pick, the extra pick they got from Dallas when they traded Luka. Trae and Cam Reddish for Luka is not a terrible trade now that you see him fleshed out. Good job by Cam. Silver medal. Chris Middleton, 32, 4, and 7. Middleton has stepped up in Games 6 and 7 against the Nets, and then Games 5 and 6 against the Hawks with no Giannis. Great job by Middleton, but the gold medal goes to Drew Holiday, the subject of this conversation. 27, 9, and 9, along with 4 steals and 2 blocks. His best playoff game as a Buck, I would argue, by far. And Game 5 wasn't far off. As Chuck mentioned, they're going to need that against Chris Paul in the finals. So Drew Holiday with the gold medal. Wildes, there are your medals from the weekend, which means your medals from Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Interesting background on the podium this morning.
New background, I like it.
Very
it's
nice.
Like Brandon's set.
Sort of like my background. That's who made it. Kevin Wildes, who missed it.
Oh, it's my favorite storyline come finals time. Torrey Craig was on the Bucks, moved to the Suns. A little switcheroo. So you know what that means? Dion Waiters style, played for the Heat and played for the Lakers. You get a ring either way. Either way wins, regardless who wins the 2021 NBA Finals. Torrey Craig gets a ring. Started the season with the Bucks, currently on the Suns. So it sounds premature, but it's not. Congratulations, NBA champion Torrey Craig. Well done.
That's right.
There it is.
Good job.
There it is. Let's talk about the Bucks' finals opponent, the Phoenix Suns. Their point guard, Chris Paul. Could CP3 actually leave the Suns if they win the title? Are we really trading this guy? We'll discuss his future next. First things first.
I think I called Kevin Herter John Herter. My apologies if I fixed it.
Back here with Chris Broussard, and we are talking about the future of Chris Paul. Veteran point guard added his first finals appearance to his resume this year, but what happens after this year? CP3 does have a player option for next season, meaning he could become a free agent. There was a report out over the weekend that the Knicks have had internal discussions about making a run at CP3. Broussard, I'll start with you. Do you believe the result of the NBA Finals will impact CP3's future in Phoenix?
It could to some degree. And by that I mean, look, I think Phoenix is going to do everything they can to keep Chris Paul, which was unthinkable going into this season. No one thought he would opt out of that the last year of his deal, which is $44 million. But he's in position now to get a deal of about 3 years, $100 million is what a lot of people around the league think. Here's where the finals could come into play. If the Knicks decide to try to go after Chris Paul and try to outbid the Phoenix Suns, Phoenix has the ultimate trump card in that they can offer Chris a 4th year and no one else can, including the Knicks. So they can give him 4 years at big money where the Knicks can only give him 3. If they win the finals, it's easier to justify giving a 36-year-old a 4-year deal. You're going to regret this deal at the end. You probably regret it for 2 years if you give him 4, but only 1 year if you give him 3. So, but if you win it, I can justify giving him a 4th year. If I lose the finals, it's harder for me to justify giving him a 4th year. I only want to give him 3 either way. But if I win the finals, at least I can say, you know what? We won a championship, first championship in our franchise history. Yeah, we'll regret it later, but I'll give him 4 years. I don't know that it'll come to that, okay. But that's where the result could play a role in his future.
Okay, I got to admit, and you're not supposed to admit this on television, especially when you're in my role, which is theoretically I'm supposed to, like, you know, have studied these things and know these things. I'm confused. And here's why I'm confused. So I'm going to go to my buddy Kevin Wildes because maybe he can help me on this. Oh, sure. What am I missing here that would make Chris Paul, let's say the Suns said to Chris Paul, you know what, here's what I offer. I offer you nothing, and I want you to pay for the casino license. The old Godfather 2. Let's say Robert Sarver says, got my title, got my conference title, whatever it is, and I'm going to go back to being, you know, my old reputation, Robert Sarver, which is not spending money. Let's say the Suns say, you can't come back. Why the hell would he pick the Knicks? Why are the Knicks all of a sudden like, oh, well, if he leaves Phoenix, he'll definitely, like, who wouldn't want to go team up with Julius Randle after that playoff performance? What am I missing? Why are the Knicks the team that it's like, oh, yeah, that's where he'd go? A guy who's been in the Western Conference his whole career, who just got his first real taste of winning, now wants to go to the Knicks? Why? Tell me. Yeah. What did I miss? Can they pay? Are they the only team that can bid on him? Yeah, okay, no. Please.
But they are the best team. Well, they're the best. It's the best city in the world is reason number one. And I think Chris Paul can have one part of being a basketball player. The other part, he treats his career as sort of like a CEO who just comes in and drops in and fixes companies. Hey, I'll drop in Oklahoma City, fix you guys up. Drop into Houston, fix you. Drop into Phoenix, fix you. Come to New Orleans, start your franchise and fix you. I think that's a cool sort of legacy. And the best sort of fixer job out there is New York. Also, Leon Rose runs the Knicks and has been Chris Paul's agent at CAA for darn near 2 decades. So I think like the idea that they had internal conversations, like, yeah, it's like me having an internal conversation of like drinking coffee. I'm doing it all the time. Of course, it's pretty obvious. So Brandon, I think it's the real sort of like New York. I know we've been talking about this for so long. It's like, it's the Mecca. But this one I actually buy. That because Chris Paul is kind of this... Right. Journeyman is sort of a bad word, but like that's why I like sort of like traveling CEO to fix companies. I think this is the most beautiful destination, not dissimilar to how like Theo Epstein fixed the Red Sox and then went over and won a World Series with the Cubs. Like, wow, I did it. I solved Phoenix and New York. I'm a unique basketball player, and my resume is one of a kind. Wherever I go, winning follows.
Yeah, listen, as a player in any sport, you think about the markets. You know, this is the #1 market, media market, sports market in the world. So that's the first thing guys think about. And on the basketball side, that's the first thing and the only thing they think about when it comes to the Knicks. I'm with Nick here. I don't know why he would go there. I don't see him leaving Phoenix because it is a legacy play. And to talk about money, it's not about the money. First, he has the money. He's on all these State Farm commercials, and he does so much outside of just being an ambassador for brands and also balling. This dude is a phenomenal businessman. He's a phenomenal investor. He does some great things. You know, the big investment he just made in Players TV. So you can go on and on and on when it comes to money. But if we're going to talk about money from, the ownership standpoint, from the team standpoint, why wouldn't you make this investment? Why wouldn't you give the guy $35-40 million? Like, the hardest thing to find, you have, and that's a leader. You saw it down in Tampa. Oh, Tom Brady, 42 years of age. Look what he did. He won another Super Bowl. He's not half the guy he used to be in his prime. But because of his experience, because of his leadership, it was worth it. And you saw it play out quickly in football, where Tom Brady goes there and he immediately wins a Super Bowl. So you have CP3. Yeah, he'll be 39-40 years of age, but he is the guy that was able to get to Ayton, not any other coach. He was the guy that was able to help elevate D Book. So you pay the guy just for that. You pay the guy, even if he's, he would never come off the bench, right? Like, he will retire a starter. But you pay that guy when his minutes begin to dwindle, Chris.
Well, I could see him coming off the bench later in his career. We'll see how it plays out. But I'm with you. I thought you were going in a different direction. So I was like, I'm going to come on here and say something I think I've only said once in my hundreds of appearances on the show, and that's I'm with Nick. Like, I agree. I've been a part of the Knicks media, or the New York City media, and Nick hit it on the head. Wild, you're skewed. You're biased because you're from New York, and New York thinks every free agent is dying to play in Madison Square Garden. And yeah, they're dying to play there once or twice a year, but not for 41 days.
Not as their home court.
He already chose Phoenix over New York. Yeah. He said he wanted to go to Phoenix this year because his family's in Los Angeles. Now, maybe he'll move them to Phoenix, but he's still got other family that's in L.A., so he's close to them. And what did he say on national TV after they won the Western Conference Championship? I came here because of that light-skinned dude over there, Devin Booker. Yep. That light-skinned dude ain't going to New York. He's staying in Phoenix.
It's like me with FS1.
I think Chris does.
I came here because of that light-skinned dude right there that's talking right now, Chris Broussard. They said he's going to be there. You're going to be able to talk hoops with him. I said, I'm coming. But Broussard, like, here's the thing, man. I think we all believe, even if the Suns lose in the finals, it would be crazy for Robert Sarver not to bring back Chris Paul. You've got, and Wilds brought this up the other day, and I thought it was a really smart point. You have an argument that you're one of only two teams in the league with a big three. Brooklyn obviously has theirs if they're healthy, and because of the emergence of Ayton and the sustainability of Chris Paul, you have your own with Chris Paul, Booker, and Ayton. And by the way, that big three can age properly. And by that I mean, right now I know, Booker's going to score the most points, but Chris Paul's the best player on the team. But as early as next year, Booker could be the best player on the team and Chris Paul could be the second best player. And in a couple years, Chris Paul could be the third best player on the team as Ayton, surpasses him. But so we all think he probably should stay. The point I'm making is, if he were to leave, I'll give you, there's a half dozen teams that make more sense for him than the Knicks. Go to Miami. Miami needs a point guard. They're better than the Knicks. They have a better history than the Knicks. They have a better coach than the Knicks. They have a better GM than the Knicks. By the way, it's also no state taxes, like where he is right now, if you care about those things. This is Knicks fans. I love you. But you are Charlie Brown, and every free agent is Lucy with the football, and you keep trying to go kick it. It's just like you build it the way you're trying to build it, which is you got lucky on Julius Randle, low buy, high upside. It worked out. Draft guys like quickly, and do it that way. And then maybe you'll get the free agent. But I'm not saying Leon Rose. I think Leon Rose is a smart guy and is going to do a good job. But they're even hiring their GMs with this idea of, well, now how can you say no to us? We're the Mecca, and did you know our guy used to run an agency? A third of the league has a guy in the front office that used to run an agency. Like, I just can't believe that this is still a thing we're doing every time. Every time it's, will it go to the Knicks? No, they don't go to the Knicks. Nobody goes to the Knicks.
Okay. All right, what about Zion to the Knicks? No.
See, there it is. Zion.
Another CAA guy.
That's it.
Another CAA guy.
Oh, that's out there. That's out there.
I know, it's there. Here's the most interesting thing, Jenna. I think that we're sort of viewing Chris Paul coming to the end of his career. And what is he trying to prioritize? Is he prioritizing winning? Is he prioritizing money? Is he prioritizing like lifestyle? His family's in LA. So we're trying to figure it all out. The other way to look at it is this the first chapter of the second book of Chris Paul's career? So is he like sort of setting himself up? Would he want to come to New York to just prepare for the next chapter of his career? We know that he's president of the Players Association. We know that he has a number of business interests. We know that he was like hand in hand with Iger, sort of like trying to like almost like a mentorship slash partnership slash like try like protege type thing. So I think Chris Paul is set up for some really big things that New York City can either prepare him for or offer to him as he looks for the next chapter of his career, which I think we don't know what it's going to be, but I think it's going to be big. Bill Bradley-esque, oddly, who also played for the Knicks. So there you go.
Yeah, Jenna, unless the next chapter is he wants to be an understudy in Hamilton when it comes back, everything else he can do from any city in the country. The idea that he has to be in New York City to do business, unless he's focused on soft pretzels and Broadway, he can do it anywhere, buddy.
It's true.
Wild so
It's true. We're doing a whole show and we're not in New York.
You're out.
What?
That was a good try.
Wild.
Until any of that happens, we get to watch Chris Paul tomorrow night. Taking on the Bucks. So let's talk. Speaking of the Bucks, some Giannis. He's still sidelined with that knee. Can they afford to miss any games in the NBA Finals? We toss that around next. First things first. I love New York.
The Rated R Superstar Edge is backing out for vengeance on Roman Reigns. Plus, Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in a last man standing match. It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox.
There it is. All right, time for stories to start your Monday morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. The finals are officially set. Suns, Bucks. Bucks taking care of business Saturday. They closed out Atlanta in Game 6. And they did it without Giannis for the last 2 games of this series. But with Chris Middleton and with Jrue Holiday, they more than made up for Giannis not being there. Giannis, by the way, listed as day-to-day with that hyperextended knee. So here we go. Let's take a look. Bucks, Suns, Game 1, tomorrow night. Here's what you need to know. Phoenix won both regular season matchups. Giannis averaged 40 against the Suns, and Nick has been banging the drums about defense all season long. These are the top 2 defensive teams this postseason. So he was right about that. Nick, can the Bucks afford for Giannis to miss any games in the NBA Finals versus the Suns?
Yes, because Phoenix has home court, and in a very odd way, that actually works in Milwaukee's favor, because Milwaukee, even with Giannis, would be happy to just get a split in Phoenix. They're supposed to lose the first 2, then win the next 2. So if Giannis can come back for Game 3, even if Phoenix is up 2-0, I think the Bucks can and will win the championship. The Bucks were down 0-2 to Brooklyn, knowing, now we got to win 4 out of 5, including Game 7 on the road. They did it. And I think in an odd way, again, if Giannis can come back, folks are underselling what Milwaukee has been. If Milwaukee wins the title, they will have unquestionably been the best team in the league over the last 3 years. There's not really an argument against it. It's like, okay, so you have, in the last 3 years, you have 2 of the 3 regular season MVPs. There's no team with multiple titles. You have a couple 1 seeds to your name. Like, yeah, that makes sense. If Milwaukee, since getting annihilated by Brooklyn, has played spectacularly in the playoffs. Since getting annihilated in Game 2, I should say. They've lost 3 times. It took the greatest game of Kevin Durant's career to beat them, and that game came down to the final minute. It took the greatest game of Trae Young's career to beat them, and that game came down to the final shot. And they got blown out in the game Giannis got hurt where they let go of the rope. That's their only losses. And so I do believe, Brandon, if Giannis comes back, and that is not disrespecting the Suns. While I wasn't as early on the Suns as you were, I said before the playoffs, I thought they were the second best team in the West, second to the Lakers. I have massive respect for the Suns. I thought Chris Paul should be the MVP. I think if Giannis can come back and be close to his regular self, the Bucks win the title. I think the Bucks are the better team.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the thing. They're not the better team, and they can't win it with or without Giannis. Like, go back to the regular season. You just talked about it. They won the head-to-head matchups. They're the better teams. The Sun is the better team when you look at the three things that stand out for me. You got the point guard. You got Chris Paul. All right, he makes everyone better. He took Ayton and made him into a real number three, a true superstar. And then he's elevated D-Book's game on and off the court. Defensively, yes, Nick, you talked about defense all year, and defensively in the regular season and the postseason, they've been one of the most efficient defenses. And then, you know, when you look at just the chemistry, man, and the continuity, this is a young, hungry, a gritty team. So when you think about this team, you got to lean into what they've been doing all year. Giannis, he will not be 100%. That hyperextension, what happened with that knee, he won't be 90%. And the problem, Wilds, is this, is we all know Giannis has two moves, right? That's it. He can't shoot, and he's definitely not hitting any free throws. So now you take away his number one move, the only move that he really truly has, getting into the paint and doing a little spin move. He's super dominant, he's super efficient, but he can't do that with that knee. So now what do you have? All right, so it's a big challenge for the Bucks. I mean, I give them, you know, a game, but that's it. They won't beat the Suns.
Okay. All right, so here's what I would do, Brandon, if I was Coach Bud. I would be like, Giannis, you're not 100%, and we don't want to play you until you're as close as possible. So we're going to rest you to this weekend for Game 3 back in Milwaukee. And I think that would free up the other players. Just be like, guys, let's get out there and play hard and try to win a game. And instead of all this massive pressure, Nick, on like everyone's first finals appearance, besides Jay Crowder, obviously, on the Suns, but for the Bucks, like, all right, yeah, we're supposed to lose these two games, and then we've got Giannis back in Milwaukee. Let's see what happens. Because I don't buy the idea that half a Giannis is better than not half a Giannis. I don't. I think it's better for him to rest. We've seen guys come back and try to have these like valiant, I can go, and it hasn't worked out. Anthony Davis, was he a super beneficial to the Lakers? Like, no, not really. I think that kind of screwed up their flow. Harden came back, and it was like, oh, he was an effective decoy. Like, I guess they won the game, so maybe. Trae Young came back. He was just a shell of himself. He missed all his threes. So if I would rather Giannis just sit these two games, you don't give them away. What you do is free up the Bucks. Like, hey, let's go out there and win. Like Brook Lopez, start bombing threes, or get back in the paint like he used to and score a bunch of points on Ayton. I don't want him playing like at 50%. I'd rather have him rest.
Well, listen, and it might be, by the way, Giannis could be done for the year. And Giannis, if he does come back, even if they give him all the rest, Wilds, he still could be, as Brandon's saying, you know, just a fraction of what he was before. And if that's the case, then the Bucks can't win. Giannis is one of the best players in basketball. He is having an unbelievable, somehow underrated playoff run. He's averaging 28, 12, and 5 this postseason. Only Oscar and Kareem have done that before. And so, like, Brandon mentioned the two matchups. Yes, the Suns won both those matchups. Both of them were decided by 1 point. Both of them came down to the final possession. And Giannis scored 47 and 33 in those two games. So obviously the Suns have trouble dealing with him. Maybe I'm going to end up, you know, this is wishful thinking. I am happy Chris Paul made the finals, but this does feel like it's Giannis's moment. Like he wins the MVP. It looks like they're going to go to the finals. They lose 4 straight. The next year he wins it again. They're definitely going to go to the finals. They don't even get to the conference finals. And then maybe that's it. But then this year, everyone's written them off. Brooklyn beats them by 50, and then they look unbelievable.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Look at their record. You're right. They're probably the best team in the NBA the last couple years. But now this knee, it's totally taking them off track. Yeah.
Look at them.
That might be
Look at them.
Yeah.
Control yourselves.
They seem
Contain
like a team
yourselves,
that knows
Bucks.
they have more work to do.
Just calm down.